Key to increasing iron doesn't actually have to do with consuming more iron, but rather focusing on the movement of it. So most people, whether they are pregnant, whether they have anemia, they are concerned about making sure that they are consuming more iron to solve low iron, but that doesn't work. And we have proof of over 80 years that this doesn't work. So in 1941 in the UK, Canada, and the United States, they decided to fortify foods with iron because pregnant women were, low on iron, and that was a great way to help them increase their iron consumption. To point out that about 1% of the population is pregnant at a time, so the other 99% of people are just consuming extra iron. In the early 1970s, there was a group that went back to the US government and they said, listen, anemia still exists. We have been fortifying our foods for the last 30 years with iron, and anemia is still an issue. So we actually need to add 3 times the amount of iron to the food in order to solve this. Now, if you can tell me a time where it worked out positively for people, where something didn't work for 30 years, so the best solution was to then do it 3 times harder, let me know, because it doesn't make any sense. Now, they didn't agree to 3 times, but they did increase it by 50%. So foods have iron fortified to them, and that's not a good thing. That's not how iron moves. We have this narrative of how iron works, and it's actually flipped completely backwards, where we think that we aren't absorbing iron, that we can't absorb it, that we have issues with it, that we need to have vitamin C along with it, that we need these different types of iron in order for it to work properly. And it's all completely backwards because the amount of iron that we need to consume a day is 1 milligram. The other 24 milligrams that we get are from iron being recycled in the body. So if you watch any of my other previous videos or you've worked with me as a client, then you know that I talk about how iron moves, because that is the key. The key is how we are going to get iron recycled in the body, rather than thinking that our mouths are going to solve this problem, because we have 80 years of proof to show that it doesn't work. Now, even when we're looking at how it works, there is a study from the 1970s that showed that when they depleted people in vitamin A, their hemoglobin dropped. They gave them iron supplements, and for 6 weeks, the iron supplements helped their hemoglobin raise about halfway up. But when they supplemented with vitamin A, that actually was what raised their hemoglobin, but it took about 200 days to do so. So when we're thinking of how things are working, we want to make sure that we're actually focusing on things that actually work. It's an artificial increase when you take iron, just like arsenic used to be used to raise hemoglobin levels. It doesn't actually mean that it's working, because I think when we are thinking of things that are actually working, we want to make sure we actually understand how that's affecting the body. So one of the examples of consuming more iron is that our spleen works 6 times as hard. So rather than it flagging red blood cells every 120 days to take them offline, it tells them every 20 days to do that. And if that doesn't sound like a super big jump to you, I want you to think of trying to drive somewhere in 6 hours, and instead of doing it in 6 hours of a drive, you now have to do it in 1 hour. It's not possible to do it safely, and your spleen can't do it safely either working at that speed. So iron moves with a protein called ceruloplasmin. It's basically like a conveyor belt, or if you watched any of my previous videos, like the bus, that moves copper to the mitochondria. It also is going to move iron and vitamin A in the form of retinol, and those are all really important to moving iron. So if you're actually looking at increasing your iron levels, then the key is that you want to focus on those nutrients. And if you have questions about it, my favorite supplements are always a beef liver or an organ blend, a adrenal cocktail, and cod liver oil. Those are 3 basic ones to look for, and those can be really, really helpful. Obviously, the quality matters, where you're sourcing them from matters. If you're looking for a list of the different options that I actually have a free holiday gift guide. Comment below and I can send you the link to it, and you can download it. It's free, and it'll have a list to all of my favorite ones.